Are you tired of getting the same questions from your staff? Are you tired of them not fully doing their jobs as much as they should? Today, we're going to talk about that. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matterhorn Business Development YouTube channel. I am your host for today's video, Neil Winterregg, and I am here to talk to you about something that I come across all the time with just about all of my clients, no matter what field or profession they're in, and that is the annoying, never-ending questions that we receive from our employees or our staff that we feel like we answer multiple times a day, answering it the same way, and every time we get asked that question, we go, gosh, my staff just don't listen to me. That is a very real problem that happens in many different scenarios. The most common one is when you have an employee who comes with you and says, what do you want me to do with this? Would you like me to do this? Would you prefer if I did this? When you would rather somebody just come up and tell you, hey, just so you know, this happened and I took care of it already. Or not even have to know at all that it even occurred, because there's no reason for you to have to be in the know on what happened, because that is their job. You don't need somebody to tell you every time they did their job. Oh, just so you know, I answered the phone. Hey, I scheduled somebody. Like, okay, great. That's what I pay you for. I don't need you to tell me. And then you also don't want somebody to come up and say, hey, would you like me to do this? Even though that's literally all they do every day, all day, and you get the same question over and over again. Usually when I hear about these scenarios, I get business owners questioning their staff, whether they're the right people for the job, whether they're competent for the job, or I get the other thing of my staff don't listen to me, my employees never do what I say, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to go over with you how you handle these employees, because they should not be asking you the same question all the time. So let me tell you what I feel about this type of a thing. People ask you questions all the time. People come to you for your verification all the time. People come to you for your approval all the time. People constantly making mistakes, etc. This comes down to one thing. In most of these circumstances, this is happening because your staff don't know what their actual job is. Now, if you told me to pick up the phone every time it rang and talk to the people on the other end of it, I would pick up the phone every time and I would talk to the people and I would answer their questions, but I might not actually get anything as a result of it. If I'm the person in charge of the schedule of a doctor's office and you tell me to pick up the phone whenever it rings and somebody says, hi, are you open on Friday? No, we aren't. And then they hang up the phone and they call a different doctor's office. Now you would sit there and go, wait a minute. Yeah, we're not open on this Friday, but we're open the next Friday and we're open on Saturday. I would look at that and go, well, the person just asked if we're open on Friday. My job is to answer the phone and answer people's questions. So if I think that my job is to answer the phone, then that's what I'm gonna do. People call up, they have a question, I'm gonna very politely talk to them and answer their questions and then hang up the phone, because that's what I'm there to do. You see, the purpose of my job is not to answer the phone to answer questions. The purpose of my job is to take those questions and turn them into appointments. But nobody told me that. Now you might think, wow, that's pretty stupid sounding, but let's give a different example. So I get hired to a new job. I show up, I'm at a factory, and I get told that my job is to sit at this exact location, and there's going to be different colored balls coming off of this assembly line, and it's my job to separate the red and the blue balls, separate them out so that they can continue on their merry way, and my job is to make sure that they're all separated out. Cool, no problem. So I'm there, and you know, I'm doing my thing. And I've been there for several months. And one day, a yellow ball comes off the assembly line. And I sit there and I stare at it and I go, wait a minute, that's not red, it's not blue, it's yellow. And then I think back, okay, what was I supposed to do if a yellow ball came off? Because nobody told me what to do if it was yellow. If it's red, I'm supposed to do this. If it's blue, it's supposed to go there. But did anybody tell me what I'm supposed to do with the yellow? And as I'm thinking about it, it shoots past me, it gets sucked up into a machine, and the factory explodes. And we all die. And somebody could look back at the security footage and go, wow, what an idiot. That guy let the entire factory blow up because he's so dumb. But the truth is, let's look at the supervisor who put me onto my job and told me what my job duties were. Because that guy told me that my job was to separate the reds from the blues and to make sure that everything was all fine and dandy as it moved down the assembly line. But what I didn't get told was that my job was to actually make sure that not only were the reds and the blues separated, but to also keep an eye on what was coming off the assembly line, because if something other than red or blue came off, that meant that there was a serious disaster about to occur, and I was the one responsible to make sure it didn't occur, which is why there's a giant red button here that says emergency stop on it. And if I had known that my job was to use that emergency stop button and when and how to use it to save the factory, well then I would have used the button. Nobody told me that my actual job was not to separate the reds from the blues, but that the ultimate the end goal of my job was to make sure that nothing other than red and blue came off the assembly line to make sure the factory didn't explode. That was a responsibility that I didn't know as an employee of this business I had, and that I was actually over. If you tell me my job is to separate the reds from the blues, that is only half of my job. Even though that's 99% of the work that I do, the ultimate goal is to separate the reds from the blues and make sure the factory doesn't explode by allowing something other than red and blue past me. I would look at not the idiot employee who let the yellow object by, but the idiot supervisor who didn't actually tell the person what their job was. If your staff don't know what their job actually is and what their responsibilities are, they will always ask you questions because they think their job is to do what you say it is to do. And this is something I see way too often. An employee thinks that when they show up at 9 o'clock, they're there to help the boss. My job is to help the boss. My job is to make sure the boss is good. My job is to make sure the boss needs help with this and with this. And you don't actually realize that that's what they think their job is, but that's what they think. So they show up, they see something, they ask you about it, and then you say, yes, that's fine. And then they go and they do it. And it happens again and again and again because nobody told them that their job was to handle that thing so that you didn't have to. And so when we are delegating, when we are training our employees, we have to give them the full picture of what they're responsible for. If you just give somebody the view of their desk and what they're responsible for at their desk, then they will only take responsibility for this small space in their environment, like the guy with the red and the blue balls separating them out. Hey, your job is to make sure the reds and the blues are separated. Okay, well, here comes the yellow one. It's not red and blue. There must be somebody else who handles the yellow ones because it's not me. No, I only got told half of my job and half of what my goal of my job was. Now, remember, maybe 99% of my job is to separate the reds and the blues because that's what I'm actually doing, but it's not the full responsibility. And so if I don't know that, I can't make decisions. And if I think my job is to help you at the office, well, then I'm going to constantly be asking you questions because I think I'm helping you. So before you complain about maybe having the wrong employees for the job or having people who don't listen to you, maybe you should look at how you train them and what you told them they were actually responsible for. Because if nobody told me that I was responsible for the full completion of paperwork 8482, well, then every time I had to do paperwork 8482, I keep coming to you, hey, are you sure? Are you good? Is this all right? Well, then I'm always going to ask you that question and you're never going to get rid of that question because you never told me that was actually my job. If you need help with how to actually give these responsibilities to your employees so that they fully understand them and can do their jobs, reach out down to us below at adventuretoprofit.com and find out more how you can work with us and get your questions answered one-on-one so that you don't have these same things happening to you all the time. And be sure to check out metapulse.com. You can find out more about them down below. They are channel sponsors and we work with them because they help your employees learn their job and track their own statistics so that they can be in control of what it is that they do, saving you time and energy.